Hey, nice to see you. I only wear those if I have to see something. Trapping is wound down. The other day was the last day. So, watch where you step there, Amanda. And I got a nice big otter on our season closed April 7th here in New York State. We had a tough spring, but I got a nice big otter and 9 muskrats that day, which is a pretty nice close. I was very happy with that. I had a good season overall. The highlights of my season, I guess, was I ended up with 13 otters and a 300 and change on muskrats. So over 300 muskrats. So that's good for me. Not bad for an old fart. So it was okay. This is the last. I got 180 muskrats this fall, and I got about 120, 130 this spring. So considering we had 2 foot of snow, 2 or 3 other snowstorms, flood water in the river, I'm happy with that. That's not bad for a couple weeks. And the highlight was 13 otters. I got some nice otters like this. This is an ideal otter. Now when you guys handle these otters, especially the young guys, this is what you want right here. Nice and clean, well handled. This otter's white in the spring, darker in the fall on the skin side. It's still good. They used to really downgrade these in the spring because they would be singed on the tails. I haven't taken this one off. In this tail section, there would be hooks because they're singed because it's getting towards spring. Well, they've developed a way to shave this fur if they need to make this worth as much as it is in the fall and even in the spring. So they're valuable. The prices went up. They just had a fur harvester sale. The prices were up on most things. You know, skunks, beavers, otters, fishers were good. Some of the common stuff wasn't so good, but you know, you're never gonna, if you want to get rich, don't be a trapper. If you want to just enjoy the outdoors and use what you can, make use of the wildlife, try to keep things in somewhat control, be a trapper. That's the way to go. Now, we were glad that you watched my video, so we're kind of wrapping things up here because the season's over with. Enough's enough. I'm kind of beat. But I also wanted to mention a couple things here. Now, this probably grosses out Amanda, but I wanted to show this before it was done. In the spring, the male muskrats have a scent gland right here that swells up like that, and they use that for trapping lure. They always had it. It's valuable. Here's a bunch of them. Only the males have these, so you're only going to get them on about 50% of your rats, obviously. These have always been fairly valuable. Collect these, and they were worth forever $100 a quart, and that's about what they still are, I guess. Now, I traded mine to this guy who I knew, Johnny Thorpe. You probably heard of him. Somewhat of a legend. The legends are mostly gone, but he was a lure maker, and he wanted his glands salted to be preserved. So it'd be a layer of glands, a layer of salt, layer of glands, layer of salt. That's the way he wanted them. Ask your lure makers, though, if you're going to sell something, what they want you to do with them. Most guys want them frozen. Now, just as a sideline story, and this is where they are, right below the testicles. That's not the testicles, it's the scent gland, and they're swollen only in the spring, and they're only on the males. I sold the first glands I've ever sold to, it shows my age, was O.L. Butcher, who was over in Shushan, over by Salem in New York State. Now, O.L., he died fairly young, and I was too young to sell him to him, but I sold him to his wife back in the 70s. I think O.L. died in the 60s, maybe 64. But I sold him to his wife, who still ran the business in Shushan. I can still remember going over there as a teenager. Just as you walk through the door, he had a great big bear. At least it looked big to a kid. But on the side of the building, he had a stink building, like a little shack thing, a stink shack. And he was a lure maker. He made all kinds of lure. Maybe they still make some of it, I don't know. But O.L. Formula was legendary, and that building did stink. That's where he put all the smells, including skunk and muskrat. Muskrat has a very sweet smell to it, but it's a very popular lure ingredient. But I sold originally to him, and then I sold to Johnny, and then I sold to Ernie Mosier down in Little Falls. Now, Ernie was a pickup agent for NAFA for years and years, and Ernie was a good guy. So I want to say a little something about Ernie was a great guy, good trapper, lure maker, hard-working man with some kids. Just a great guy. And NAFA went out of business a couple, 3 years ago now, or maybe longer than that. Time doesn't mean anything when you get old. But I sold them to him for 20 years through NAFA. That business, part of that business was in existence for 500 and something years. And they went broke. Well, they didn't go broke. And I want to say this right off the bat. They didn't go broke from the hard-working trappers and the pickup agents and all the men and women that made that happen. To keep that company thriving and to make money with that company, promote fur, worked hard, promote the auctions, picked up all that stuff. They didn't go broke from the hard-working guys. They went broke, which is a typical thing in business. They went broke from the tippity top of the pyramid. The ones that were making the big bucks robbing the company. And that was what made that company go bankrupt and broke, from robbing the company. But not from guys like Ernie. Ernie was a great guy, and 90% of those trappers and stuff, that tip top, probably they never even set a muskrat trap in their life. That little tiny bunch on top that ruined that company of 500 years. And think about this. You are an auction house that makes your money from everybody else's work, basically. Like guys like me that send everything in, and Ernie picks them up. And everybody else's work, and you're on commission. You know, 10, 11% commission, 9%, depending on what kind of deal. And they were a good company. But how does that go broke? I mean, you get $1 million worth of sales, it's from everybody else's work. It's from guys like me and Ernie and everybody else, the hundreds of trappers. They had, I can't remember, 10 or 12,000 members in their freaking organization. So how do you ruin that business? You don't, all you do is sell the fur and you make money off selling the fur, your commission. But that's how you do it. You get greedy. It's the greed of the American that had to rob too much of that money off that top and put the whole organization out of business. It's a sad story, but guys like Ernie were great trappers. He was a great guy. He would do whatever he could. They'd give you an advance check, and mine was usually a couple $1,000s because I had a lot of stuff. And he would grade that stuff out as close as he could to cut you an advance check on your take. Just a good guy, hard-working guy, and he was a good lure manufacturer too. And I don't know, I haven't talked to Ernie in a while, but I don't know if he's making lure anymore or not. But anyways, when I used to trade my muskrat glands to Ernie or Johnny, they would give you about, I never took the cash. They'd give you about twice as much in equipment, whatever you wanted. Johnny, his lure, he had great lure. I didn't have to buy lure for 10 or 15 years because they would give you, you know, if I had $100 worth of muskrat glands, which would be about a quart, roughly, he'd give you $200 worth of the finished product that he was making, Johnny or Ernie or whoever. It was a great deal. But, yeah, let's not forget hard-working trappers like Ernie Mosier, who didn't put that company out of business. It's a sad situation. And now we only have fur harvesters, which I got a bunch of stuff at fur harvesters now. We'll see how we do. I haven't got the check yet, so I don't know. But all the prices are up as far as I can tell, so we're going to go high next year. I got to bring the rest of this stuff over to them. Beavers were the highlight of the sale, I guess. Now, they went $31 across the board for every beaver they had. And as an interesting side note, what they're doing, and these organizations were good at this, NAFA was good at this, finding a niche for the products that you have to sell. North America is overloaded with beavers now. There's just too many beavers, period. They can't go into all these spots that they're in. So they got to go. So the alternative is, let's do something with it that we can, some kind of a product or something with this animal, instead of just shooting them with a rifle and letting them float down the river to rot, because that's a crime. And I hate that. It pisses me off. But so now they found this market now, and one of the famous maker cowboy hats, and these are not the $10 cowboy hats like I wear. These aren't hats like this. These are probably, who knows, $1,000 cowboy hats. And the best felt in the world, they found out years ago, comes from the beaver, because it's very water resistant. It blends together good. They make felt out of it. They shave the fur and make a felt out of it, and it's very, very strong and durable. And that same thing is a kind of a side note deal. I should have probably had Amanda Google it because I don't have the dates on it, but it was probably in the 1800s, early 1900s. Almost put this beautiful beaver who is the workhorse of the environment. I mean, he is the builder and the habitat maker of all the animals, including frogs and everything. Frogs, snakes,